Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now! Democracy! Now! Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now! Democracy! Now! Democracy!
Might have a second protest outside the secure area, but we will carry on. And we are trying to sort that out with the security and the police. But in the meantime, we're going to stay here and keep on protesting right through the afternoon. I just want to remind people why we're here. Basically, because 60 years of one head of state without a single election is not something to be celebrating. Let's be clear, it's not an achievement. It's a simple matter of mathematics. If you're given a job at 25 and you live till you're 85, you've had the job for 60 years. Lots of people live that long. Very few people have a job for life, particularly these days. So, we're here to make sure that we get a very loud voice across to the millions of people in this country who are opposed to the monarchy, and to the millions more who are quite frankly indifferent to it and need to hear a good argument why we should get rid of it. Do not believe for a moment that a majority are, along with these people, celebrating the Jubilee. The poll the other day, 30% are going to celebrate, more than 50% said they will not be celebrating. So do not believe that we're a small minority. We're a very strong and vocal minority, and our message is the most powerful message there is. It's a message about freedom and democracy. It's a message about the people being in charge. It's not a message about hereditary privilege and power. It's not a message about doffing your cap to other people. And history is on our side. There are far fewer monarchies now than there ever have been, and very soon there will be fewer still. And ours is going to go on its way out, along with the rest of the monarchies in Europe. We even have Swedish Republicans here today with us as well. We are now part of an alliance of European Republican movements. There is a movement in every monarchy in Europe, and together we're going to work for monarchy-free Europe and make sure that every country in this continent is free and democratic. And you're a very important part of it. I'm very proud to be part of a movement that has all you people involved in it, many more thousands around the country who are supporting us in other ways, and many people who are going to be supporting us over the coming weeks and months around the country to make sure that this message carries on getting heard. As I said earlier, the Jubilee will be long forgotten. This movement is stronger now than it's ever been before, thanks to the Jubilee, and we're going to carry on over the next few years, and we're going to bring the monarchy to an end. So, thank you very much.
60 years, it's time to go!
Another 60, hell no!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Democracy!
When do we want it?
Now!
We don't want a Jubilee! We just want democracy!
We don't want a Jubilee! We just want democracy!
We don't want a Jubilee!
We just want democracy!
Just outside of the secure area. So we're not going to be put off. We're not going to be kept out. I just want to say, for the benefit of the wider audience, that we are here because the monarchy is wrong on every single level. And the most important level is that it's wrong in principle. And our principles have to matter, and we have to cherish those principles and celebrate those principles and have them represented on our behalf in our institutions. And those principles are about democracy and equality and accountability. They're not about hereditary public office. They're not about people being born into jobs for life. But let's not forget that the palace also fails. It is not fit for purpose. This is an organisation that lobbies politicians, our politicians, in private, in secret. They lobby for their own private interests. They use their influence for their own private interests. They take out money. They spend millions of pounds on their own travel, their own accommodation, whilst many of our own ordinary people are losing their jobs through public cuts. Now, if people are going to be losing their jobs, why is our head of state not showing the way by taking a huge cut in the amount of money that we spend on her? The President of Ireland last two presidents of Ireland have both taken a massive pay cut in solidarity with the Irish people. Now, Monarch has instead at the same time stitched up a deal which means she gets even more money from the taxpayer. And thirdly, there's even a more important reason, is that our politics is simply not good enough. It is not democratic. Too much power is concentrated through the monarchy, through the crown, in the hands of our government. Alongside Queen Elizabeth, we have King David, exercising crown powers on a regular basis at the stroke of a pen, doing things which cannot be then challenged in the court or properly scrutinised in Parliament. Our entire democracy is at fault because of the crown. So we need to have our moment where we say that we're not going to put up with this kind of nonsense anymore. We want a real democracy. A written Republican constitution that says, line 1, the people are sovereign. Yeah. We the people. Yeah. We then elect our people that we then delegate to Parliament and who then govern us on our behalf in a limited fashion. And at the top you have a president elected by us, by the people, one of us, and don't ever believe that the only choice is King Charles or a clapped out politician. That is not the choice. We're a country absolutely packed full of brilliant people who could do a fantastic job as our head of state. And it is monarchists who are unpatriotic, it is monarchists who do this country down by telling us that all we can possibly do is make a poor choice out of poor candidates, and the only possible person who can replace the Queen as head of state is Prince Charles. I can tell you that is not a prospect that most people look forward to, and so over the next few years we're going to try and save them from that prospect by bringing the whole thing crashing down and put in place an elected head of state. But let me make clear, it's going to need your support. It's not something I can do, it's not something our core team can do. It needs people joining up, it needs people campaigning, going out in the streets around the country, doing the work on social media, getting out, writing to the press, writing to the MPs, getting the Labour Party on side, getting the Liberal Democrats on side, getting the Greens on side, and yes, getting the Tories on side. We are a cross-party organisation. We have support from right across the board. We need to work on that and build on that right across the board and get people in all parties and none on our side. Because the democratic cause is not one that is limited to the left or to the centre left or to the centre. It is one that has purchase and has value right across the board, and we have to build that wide movement for change that appeals to everybody in the country. And again, the people over here are in a minority. Most people are not celebrating the Jubilee. Polls have shown that most people are not celebrating the Jubilee. Most people are taking 4 days off and having a nice holiday. Thank you very much. So, we have a whole lot of people in the middle who are ready to be convinced. It's our job to persuade them in an intelligent and moderate way that democracy and democratic reform in this country has to start at the top, has to get rid of the crown, and has to give us the chance to elect one of our own as our head of state. That's all I'm going to say for now. I will be back later. As I said, this is a very exciting moment for us. This is a big step forward for the Republican movement. This is no longer the preserve of the chattering classes and the Guardian readership. This is about ordinary people speaking up for democratic values, and it's about ordinary people making that change and making that voice heard. And there are millions of people out there around the country today very pleased that you're down here making our voice heard at this Jubilee. Thank you very much.